Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Toyless Titles. My name is Justin Stevens. I'm going to be your host this evening for the Raiders off-season breakdown show. You guys know you guys already know Rich is a real adamant about his excitement for his Raiders. So he's obviously coming on the show. Got a couple other key guests, one that already kind of looks familiar to you guys, and another one that really should sound familiar if he doesn't already. I'll get to that in just a minute. For now, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. We are on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and the whole 9 yards. Don't forget, if you give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcast or give us a great review through Spotify, send it to us. Let us know that you've done it, and you may qualify for a free entry to our Frankenstein Listeners League. Also, don't forget, this past week, we were able to set up our Patreon. That's patreon.com/ToylissedTitles. Pretty easy to find our handle out there. You can find us at ToylissedTitles on Twitter. And then, of course, all the other handles for the show are going to be scrolling across down at the bottom. But I believe I hit all of the housekeeping stuff, so I'm going to jump right into our intros here. Obviously, you guys all remember Rich, our fill-in co-host. He helps us out with a lot of stuff behind the scenes as well. Not to mention a show that's going to be making a debut, I'm sure, here really soon. His Bathroom Breaks episodes for Toyless Titles. Rich, how's it going tonight?
Doing good, man. I'm excited to be on with the fellow Raider fans here, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I figure you try to make every single episode's Raiders centric anyway. So what the hell? We may as well give you an entire show to let it out, right?
We just did one yesterday, so we're good.
yeah. So, good reference. For those of you that don't know, we had a mock draft of our absolute favorite legends of all time in the NFL, and Rich did all he could to take all of the Raiders. We even did coaches, and he took John Madden with the 101. So yeah, it was a very Raiders heavy episode, that's for sure. All right, then we got Neal Maligno here. You guys know Neal from the Clock Dodgers because he's been on the show, and here he is. We must have done something right for you to come back, Neal.
This is true. I appreciate you guys having me back on, man. I really do.
Right on. If you guys haven't checked out Neal, I got to tell you, I knew that you guys had a website out there, but I'll be 100% honest with you. Me and you are friends. I still haven't really checked out that website like I probably should have. I checked it out today. Dude, it's pretty dope. You put a lot of work into that. And yeah. I also didn't really pay attention to a lot of those other podcasts outside of your fantasy football stuff, other than the ones that you post. Like your Kobe Bryant one was real powerful, and of course your George Floyd episode was, absolutely unreal. Guys, I'm telling you, there's a lot more than just fantasy football to this guy, but you'll see tonight. He also knows his football too. And then of course down at the bottom, contact@clockdodgers.com. And then finally, our last guest I'm going to introduce here is your boy Q. Q from UNR, from Fox Sports Central Texas, 1330 AM, 93.9 FM. He has a show from 3 to 6. But the way that I found out about him was listening to him on the Locked On Raiders podcast. That's right. You guys know I'm a Colts fan, but I still listen to other podcasts about other teams. And especially whenever they know what they're talking about. And this guy will give you some insight even for your fantasy football teams out there, because what he says may not necessarily be fantasy-centric, but it's good information, and it can help you with your fantasy teams. Also find him on @LockedOnBets podcast, which I have not checked out, honestly, until probably tonight. I'm sure I will download tonight and give it a listen tomorrow. But Q, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man, appreciate it, man. I'm glad we were able to make this work and have some fun, talk some Raider football, and hang out with the fellas, man. It's fun.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, if you guys see me grimace, man, I got a really bad sunburn yesterday, so I'm not feeling real comfortable right now. But we're gonna struggle through this. All right, we're gonna jump right into it, guys. The Raiders, the Raiders haven't been bad, but they haven't been great in a really long time. So they made a lot of moves this offseason. They made probably the most ads, more so than most teams when you talk free agent moves. Had what I think was a decent draft. The floor is going to pretty much be open to all whatever you guys want to talk about. But real quick, I do want to say, Q, I don't know if it was your last episode, but it was a recent episode on Locked On Raiders where you talked about Julio Jones and the potentials of him being out there. We don't necessarily have to talk about all that, but I do want to know if you feel like this team is still missing something, like if there's still something out there, a free agent out there, or something, maybe even looking ahead to next year's draft, if there's something out there that you feel like this team really needs to focus on to try to get back to where, Al Davis would be proud of this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they are a number one wide receiver away. I think they have some really good weapons offensively. Of course, Darren Waller is going to be the lead dog. Even though he's a tight end, he's going to be the number one target. Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, I think that's great additions to the backfield. Jacobs was already there, but Kenyon Drake, you add him in free agency. It's a good 1-2 punch right there. You really never take your starter off the field. So that's great, and then you can put him into different situations as well. Henry Ruggs, you still have to see what he's going to do offensively. He only had 26 catches his rookie year, which is not enough. And I know that he was a rookie, and I know he's not the number one target, and I know he opens the offense, and I say that kind of with a smile on my face because people always tell me how much he opens the offense up, and that's great and all, but they didn't draft him number 12 at all overall just to open things up. They drafted him number 12 to be a big-time playmaker. He wasn't that his rookie year. Some of that's on him. Some of that's on the team. I think that's something he's going to work on this offseason and training camp, working up to the season to be a better player. I really do think he's got that in him. But, with all that being said, I think a number one wide receiver would still be great for this team. And so if you have an opportunity to go get Julio Jones, and I'm a little skeptical on the situation only because I know Julio's got a big-time contract. That's the only reason that Atlanta's probably going to look to move him anyway after June 1st is because of the contract and the salary cap situation that they're in. I also know that every year it seems like he's going back and asking for more money. So that's another situation. Last year he only played in, I think, 6 games. So that's an issue. He's 32 years old. But with all that being said, he's still a heck of a wide receiver when he's out there on the field. He still could do some dynamic things. And if you have Darren Waller, you have Henry Ruggs, and you have Julio Jones out there, who are you doubling? You can't really shade one guy. You can't really cheat to stop somebody else because you're going to leave someone else that could burn you. So I think that they would really do well if they were to get him. My biggest issue, and that was the last episode on Friday's episode talking about Julio Jones. The biggest issue I have is what are you going to give up to get him, and how does it work financially for the team? And really, the financial part, that's the team's fault. They got to figure that out. That's not on me. I don't have to worry about figuring it out. But I'm still curious. I still want to know, how do you structure this? How do you work it so it fits under your salary cap and you're good to go? Teams could figure that out. I have no doubt about that. If they want to get it done, they can get it done. Some players would obviously not be there, which, they're probably not going to be there anyway, So it's an interesting situation. So I guess the biggest question would be, what would you be willing to give up for a Julio Jones? And if you remember back a couple off seasons ago, John Gruden and Mike Mayock went out and gave up a 3rd and a 5th for Antonio Brown. And we all know it didn't work out. But the idea is the same. You're trying to get that number one dude. Antonio Brown would have been that number one guy. I think Julio Jones could be the same dude. So I'd probably be willing to give up that same number 3 and number 5 overall and go get him. Some people might give up a 3rd and maybe a player. I'm willing to give up the 3rd and the 5 and call it a day and see what they could do. I don't know if that'd be enough for him, but I think that would be what I would be willing to give for a 32-year-old wide receiver that, only played in 6 games in 2020.
Right. Now, Neal, I know how you feel about potential talks of players coming to the Raiders. We have that conversation every single time on our Fusion chat with Joshua. But every time a player comes up available, it's no here, and you've even called it out before. Hey, watch, now they're gonna say he's coming to the Raiders.
That's a sexy thing to do.
Yeah,
exactly. What I mean? And I don't know your guys' conversation you had, but I've had this many times. The Raiders' name gets involved in everything. If they said that Jesus was returning tonight, they'd be like, I bet you it's going to be at Allegiant Stadium. It's always got something to do with the Raiders. Every conversation is Raider related. It doesn't matter if it's a free agent, someone just got cut, someone's about to get traded. It does not matter. The Raiders' name's always involved.
Yeah. The Raider Nation, they know we go hard. So we're going to watch it. We're going to consume it. We're going to listen to it. As long as you talk about the Raiders, we're going to be all on it. So that's part of it. The other part of it is, you hear a lot of times like teams saying like agents will throw the Raiders out there because they feel like that starts to raise the value of the price of the contract or the trade offer. And I believe all those things are real. You know what I mean? So, whether they'll go after Julio Jones or not, I don't know. But if they do, I would certainly be open to it. I think, Q is right as far as like what I would do value wise. Cause again, I'm not crazy about giving up tons of draft picks to older wide receivers. And that's not a diss to Julio. It's just you're taking on a lot when you take on Julio. And so I would be down for that. But I don't know if it's realistic or not, man. I just don't know if
Right.
the Raiders are going to do that or not. But we'll see. It's a fun thing to think about, and it's one of those things where every fan of every team is trying to think of the same thing, for them. But I do think a Julio would put the Raiders in an interesting conversation as far as playoffs and that kind of stuff, because obviously, like you said, when you look at the depth chart, that's the one thing you don't see is like a wide receiver that you go, wow, this guy is really good. He's unbeatable one-on-one. Like, you got John Brown you added this offseason, but what is he going to do? He's not a Julio Jones.
Right.
You hope that some of these young guys, Edwards and Ruggs and stuff, can develop into something that, takes that kind of attention. But Julio Jones obviously is in a different level than all those guys. So the Raiders, will be fools to ignore it in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And Rich, of course, during the free agent market, every single time a player would pop up and they're talking contracts, Rich's response is, "He's coming to the Raiders. He's coming to the Raiders." We'd see the message board just light up. I don't care that they just signed a running back. This one's coming to the Raiders too.
It's just great to say that, man. I mean, you got your boy Q and you got Clock Dodgers over here, Neal. I mean, they're the true analysts. Really understand everything. Where I'm just that true fan, that anything that I could even say that comes straight to the Raiders, they're always coming over there. That's how I look at it.
Passionate, but you're passionate about everything. That's why we love you. That's why you're good for the team. That's for sure. Right on. Well, how would you feel about Julio coming to the Raiders?
I'm going to echo these guys. I would love to have him there and stuff like that. We did a lot of in this offseason, like with our line and everything, defense coming in and everything, and you would like to have that number one receiver, but man, I'd really like to just see how these guys are going to do this year, our young receivers we have, after a year, what they've seen, how the NFL is and everything that they went through last year, coming in this offseason and getting a true training camp. Hopefully it's a true training camp. I want to see what they could do, let's try them out and learn with them. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it really does. To me, I would think that Julio would kind of give you that on the job training. He'd give the young guys, the Bryan Edwards, the Henry Ruggs, guys like that. He would give them that skill set and that knowledge on how to be a great pro. I think Bryan Edwards could be really good. Problem with Bryan Edwards is that he's injury prone. He was injury prone when he was at South Carolina, and he's been banged up his rookie year in the NFL. The one thing I know about players is that if you're injury prone in high school and you're injury prone in college, you're probably going to be injury prone in the pros. So, I mean, it's just something to kind of pay attention to. I like him. I think he's a violent runner. I think he's after the catch he had, the touchdown catch, I think it was the last game of the season, and he just snagged it. He was in the corner of the end zone. He snagged it with his hands. He didn't let it get to his body. I hate when people catch the ball with their body. He snagged that thing. It looked like his hands were vice grips, man. I mean, you see what he's got. You see what they like about him, why they drafted him in the third round. You just want to see more of it. So I think Julio could really be a good piece to kind of help him develop as well. You have him on a 1-2 year deal, whatever it is, whatever the rest of his contract is. And again, how they have that structured. I don't know how much Atlanta would have to eat. I don't know how much the Raiders would be responsible for, how they would restructure it. The one thing is, and for the longest, I've always said, don't trade off draft capital for old veterans and this and that. But man, I'll tell you what, I did a show the other day. And I was talking, as a matter of fact, in the background now, I got the Knicks game on, and the Knicks haven't been in the playoffs in a long time. And Knicks fans are losing their mind. The Madison Square Garden is packed. And their last time they were in the playoffs was 2012 to 2013. And I realized the Raiders were in the playoffs in 2016. But did anyone really think they were going to win that game with no Derek Carr? I didn't. I was at that game and didn't believe that Connor Cook, a rookie, was going to be able to get that victory. And he didn't. So I don't even look at that as a real playoff berth, even though it was. Before that, the last time they were in the playoffs was 2002, 2003 when they lost to John Gruden in the Super Bowl. They're starving. And I mean, the team, Raider Nation, there's a big chunk of fans that, including my son, who's a Raider fan because I'm a Raider fan, because of faith. He's a Raider fan because he believes that I tell him that the team is good. He's never seen them good. You know what I mean? So at some point, yeah, you don't want to waste your draft picks. You don't want to do this. You don't want to mortgage the future. But what are we doing? What are we doing here? At what point do you say, damn it, it's playoffs or bust? It's got to get to the playoffs, got to make some noise. Reward the fan base. Reward you. You've got all your Raider stuff on. You're talking about everybody coming to the team. You're, ride or die passion. Can you get some of that love back? You know what I mean? And so that's what I've been asking. Like, Raiders, can you give the fan base what they deserve? I did a show earlier the week. It was called Salute to Raider Nation. Because I'll tell you what, man, there ain't a fan base that rides harder than Raider Nation, and they have not been rewarded in forever.
Yeah.
Facts.
So Rich, I know you're hungry as a fan, and you're going to have your Fritos ready for week 1. But what about this appetite, or what about this offense is going to appease that appetite and come week 1?
Man, like I said, I want to see how the line's going to hold together. I really like the fact that they brought in Drake and everything, and I think he's going to add something that we really need and stuff like that. Maybe he's that receiver that steps out of the running game and everything. Because just like we said, Waller is going to be the point, is the number 1 there, and everything. And with all these pieces that come in, if they bring in Jacobs and Drake out of the backfield, and Drake drops out and everything, what does that do? That just opens up so much more and everything. But the key thing is stuff like that is, what is our line going to do and everything? And that's what's really going to be the most important part now that I'm seeing the way everything was built. Defense, I love the way the defense was built. I mean, we got to see how that goes and stuff like that. But with the coach and all the weapons that they add, you have to say they're going to be better. But it's just one of those things we're going to see when the season starts.
Yeah, what about that offensive line? I mean, I know that they brought Richie Incognito back.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they drafted Alex Leatherwood in the first round. I mean, I don't know much about offensive lines, to be honest with you. As a fantasy football guy, I just kind of pay attention to whether or not the lines are good or bad. So how improved is this offensive line?
Well, I mean, it's younger. It's younger than it was. I think it's more athletic than it was, but it's going to be one of those you have to wait to see if it's actually better. You traded your, Pro Bowl, should be Pro Bowl, multiple Pro Bowl center, Rodney Hudson. They moved on from him. He went to Arizona. They sent Gabe Jackson to Seattle. They put Trent Brown, went to New England, even though Trent Brown really only played in half the games that he was, possible to play in. I think he had 2 seasons there with the Raiders. He played in a total of 16 games out of 32. So, I mean, that's not getting your money's worth. So that was kind of writing on the wall. But Rodney Hudson and Gabe Jackson was a big question mark, especially Rodney Hudson. He's been the anchor of that offensive line. So, they feel really good about Andre James, who's a young dude, an undrafted guy. They gave him a nice little 3-year contract extension after moving on from Rodney Hudson. And the one thing about it, man, is good teams. This is what I do know is good teams. They allow guys to get older and then they move on from them because they feel comfortable in the guys that are behind them, the younger dudes that are behind them, ready to take their place. So I have to trust that the team saw what they needed to see in Andre James and said, this dude can hold it down at the offensive line position. I got to give Tom Cable a lot of credit, who I'll be the first to admit I'm not a huge Tom Cable fan, but what he was able to do the last couple seasons with the Raiders in that offensive line, he's earned the respect to say, okay, he can get it done. So we'll see what happens now with the younger and more athletic. Alex Leatherwood was a big conversation piece right after he was drafted. I wasn't a big fan of taking him at 17. I'm a guy who loves Alabama football, and I know that the minute that they won the national championship, I said that would be a good guy to take in the second round, just off of what I've seen, not off of what Daniel Jeremiah or Mel Kiper or Todd McShay or any of these other cats are saying. I just looked at him as, it's probably a round 2 guy, and then they end up taking him in the first round. So I wasn't a big fan of it, but after day 2 of the draft, they went and got Trayvon Merrick out of TCU, the safety. They went and got him in the second round, and I thought he was the first round guy. I'm not a draft analysis or any of those guys. I'm not, those experts. So, hey, you still got the 2 guys you wanted. I thought it was backwards, but who cares? I don't care. You got now Leatherwood has a 5th-year option. So if he could be that right tackle, if you could hold it down and he could hold that spot down and be day 1 starter like Mike Mayock said he's going to be, then great. You got you a really good tackle and you feel like your offensive line is solidified. The only question I have with Leatherwood is, and this is what Mayock said, if he doesn't work out a tackle, they're going to kick him into guard. Then you spent your number 17 overall pick on a right guard. You know what I mean? So that, to me, I don't feel like the value's there. But I don't want to like kick him down the stairs before he even has an opportunity to go out there and show what he can do. Everything I've heard from him and everything I've seen sounds like he's going to be the part. He's going to be that guy. Now it's just time for him to go out there and execute. That's all.
Yeah, when it comes to the O-line, like from fantasy and from an NFL perspective, like anyone who says like the Raiders got worse, what are the Raiders doing on the O-line? Like it's not realistic. What they're saying, like they don't really have any merit for that because like you said, half the guys that left were either declining in some fashion, they weren't playing all the games. Tom Cable was cycling dudes in on this line, and it got the job done, right? So that gave the team and him this level of confidence to believe that the guys that we're filling in can start, and that I can keep rotating guys in here to make this work. So when you draft Leatherwood, like everyone bashes the pick, okay, because of where he went, and not a lot of people predicted that. he's gonna be a right tackle, not a left tackle. So that's one of the major things here, right? So like that takes away some of the concern that you have for him, because you're not asking him to be the guy there. You know what I'm saying? He's going to the right side. So there's that. And then there's all these other, like I said, all these guys that this depth they've added, the a little bit of continue it, Denzel Good and James, like you said, he's been there and he's been learning, and they obviously would not make those moves unless they felt confident in it. Like, let's just be honest. Like, it just is what it is. You know what I mean? So you can't really say they got worse till they prove it. So right now, like, basing anything off that in a negative way, I just can't grab that and run with it. So like, I'm gonna believe in it till it shows me it's wrong, and so that's where I'm running with the O-line. I'm not gonna get too concerned about it. Like, when you think about fantasy, like, Derek Carr, Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs, like, they're all gonna be fine. I can't not draft them as high as I would or anything because of the O-line. I'm just not gonna dedicate that much hate to it. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't go with it. The coaching has proved that it's worked in the past. So I'm gonna like you said, I wasn't even a big Cable fan because his first time around it was like a real negative experience.
Yeah.
The second time he's been here, it's been a lot different. So I'm gonna keep believing in his system and what he's doing until it fails this time. So that's where I'm at. But I'm not gonna put a negative light on it right away.
Yeah, I think of this way too. Look, I mean, the Raiders line, they weren't top 10. I think they're ranked 15th last year, around that. If our line could do just that same production this year, we're paying less for it and stuff like that. So it's a win-win situation, and it's time, just like you said, they're younger and stuff like that. I just want to see, just do that same production like they did last year. Even if they're not top 10, around 15, look, that's a win and stuff like that. And we're just going to grow from that. I mean, look, they were saying the same thing about Miller when they drafted him.
Yep.
Look how he's came around.
Yep.
Yeah, when we drafted Miller, they were paying for it. And
stuff like that. So, yeah, we'll see how it comes in the season. Like I said, I'm excited. I'm glad they went that direction. I was shocked when they did it, when it started all falling apart like that. But then you just got to sit there and think about, what were we paying at that point to what we're paying now and stuff like that. And let's see how it goes.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
And you guys were also talking about Tom Cable's return. Neal, actually, I think you're the one that brought that up. And then another guy is making a big Raiders return this year, Carl Joseph, the safety. And then they also brought in a couple defensive tackles in Hankins and Dickerson. But their next 5 draft picks after Leatherwood were all defense. It's obvious that they are putting a lot of focus in on this defense. So I'll start with you, Neal, this time on this one. That defense obviously has to be much improved, right? Based off of all of the additions that they've made.
Yeah, so I mean, you would hope so. I mean, and Carl Joseph, like, it was an interesting thing because they re-signed him and then they go draft like 4 safeties. So you don't really exactly know how they're playing it because some people feel that some of the safeties that they drafted will be linebackers and hybrid roles. So there's all kinds of things. It's a new defense, even so it's a new defense. Hopefully, a more simpler defense, an easier defense to understand and to grasp, because it seemed like guys were struggling with the last defense, especially when you were adding new players and rookies, like guys that you felt you had high potential just weren't like getting it quick enough. So I'm looking forward to the new defense period from a coaching standpoint. And then when you add the guys, like not even just the safeties that they signed, they added Ngakoue on the line, which I think will be huge. And also not just the new guys, because they did add some like vet corners. I'm actually just happy to get into a defense. Hopefully it'd be simpler and easier, and just get some just keep it fundamental and quick and easy and not too crazy. I feel like the last defense maybe was just a little too crazy for guys, and I'm interested. And don't forget, like, even Mike Mayock says it all the time, like, they need guys to improve. Like, there's guys that are in their second year, third year. Like, it's time for them to own up to that fact that they're just not where they're supposed to be. And again, I don't know if that's the defensive coaching. I don't know what you want to blame it on, but they just have to. If those guys don't improve, then the defense just simply won't improve. I don't think. I really don't. Because there's some secondary guys like Arnett and Mullen and all these guys, like they just have to take it to the next level, and that's all there is to it. And so we'll see if the new coaching does it. I think that's what they're hoping. And then you infuse a bunch of new guys in the defensive line, and they hope they take it to the next level. But I think more than the players they've added, it's guys who have already been there and proven. That's even more important than the guys they've added.
Right on. You mentioned Yannick Ngakoue. Just throw it out there. Like, if you guys don't follow him on Twitter, you need to. Like, he doesn't tweet often, but when he does, it's usually pretty inspirational stuff. Like, it's cool stuff. It's mellow. It's not like there's no drama there. But a really cool dude. Like, I followed him back and forth through all these different teams in his career. Like, I don't know. I'm a big fan of his. I can't wait till he settles into a particular team. Hopefully, even with the Raiders, I might even buy a jersey.
I'll buy it for you.
Hey, all right, there you go. By the way, I like how you two down there at the bottom color coordinated your lights tonight. That's pretty sweet.
It did. I can change it on the fly if you want a different color back here. Let me know.
Oh, this is cool. This is cool. I feel like I'm in Star Wars right now.
Yeah, you want to go green, red? What do you want?
Yeah, we can do whatever you want. We can
That's
just
funny.
change it up every
All
half
right,
hour.
what about you, Q? What do you see in this defense? Anything else to add?
I think the biggest free agent pickup for the Raiders defensively was Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator. It's been mentioned already about the defense before was really complex, and Paul Gunther had made it really wordy, and guys you could tell guys didn't know what they were doing, or if they did know what they were doing, they weren't 100% sure of their job or what they were supposed to be doing. So they were a step slow, and you can get away with that in college. You could just be a better athlete than the team you're playing, and you can get away with maybe not, reading and reacting correctly. But in the NFL, man, if you read the read and you react incorrectly, you're going to get burned. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how good you are. These guys are all studs. They're next level. So it's one of those situations, man. I feel like Gus Bradley's going to, somewhat simplify things. And then at the same time, you've seen that he's been a really good defensive guy. He's put his players, no matter if it was in Seattle, Jacksonville, the Chargers, he puts his guys in good position to succeed. And that's the biggest thing. Like the Raiders, what they need to do, I think John Gruden, probably one of the biggest questions he had before he hired Gus Bradley was, okay, we drafted Jonathan Abram a couple years ago at the back end of the first round. What can you get out of him? What can you use him for? How could he succeed in your defense? And I think that should have been one of the biggest questions answered is what the plan for Jonathan Abram is, because I think he could be a heck of a player if used correctly. I just don't think that he's been used correctly his first 2 years, and his first year was basically a wash because he only played half a game. But besides that, this last year, just you can see at moments he looked like he can, have good flashes, and then there's other moments you just kind of hit your head like, what in the world's going on out there? But I think there was so much confusion. Guys are looking around each other, and I always reference that Kansas City Chiefs game, that Sunday night game at Allegiant Stadium, when they when Patrick Mahomes threw that touchdown pass to Travis Kelce to win the game. Basically, you could see Damon Arnett, you could see Jonathan Abram, you could see other guys looking around at each other like, "Hey, what just happened?" And so that to me is a lack of communication where I don't trust you to do what he's supposed to. You know what I mean? It's like we're not all on the same page, and for that to work, you've all got to be on the same page. So I think Gus Bradley is going to be able to figure that out. I like all the additions that they did in the draft. I think it was great. The Carolina Panthers, I think they kind of got the ball rolling with this situation where you go and draft a bunch of defensive guys. Matt Rule's first year there in Carolina last year, he went and drafted all defensive players. Not one single offensive player. Everybody was a defensive player because he knew that was the biggest issue. This year, you see the Raiders, like you mentioned, they only drafted 2 guys on the offensive line, and the other guys were all defensive players. The Cowboys, they did pretty much the same thing. They drafted a bunch of defensive guys. Teams that have defense issues said, you know what? We're going to go into the draft and draft a bunch of defensive guys. And that's what they should do. So that should be better. I'm assuming that it's going to get better. It can't really get much worse. They were ranked 25th last year. So, I mean, it's not too much further they can go down. So I would assume the only way is up. So hopefully Gus Bradley's able to turn that around. But that's going to be the biggest key. Their offense could put up some points, but they've got to shave off. If they gave up 30 points a game last year like they did, they've got to get it down to 24, 23, something around that area. They've got to be able to get around that if they want to be able to think that they're going to win each and every week. And giving up 30 points a game, you're not going to win a bunch of shootouts in the NFL. You're just not. And they went 8-8. So you still got to give them credit for finding a way to go 8-8, giving up 30 points a game. It just doesn't happen that often.
Yep.
Yeah. And the fact that they brought in they brought in some vets on with free agent with Casey Hayward. He knows Gus Bradley's system and everything. They bring in Ngakwe and stuff like that. So bringing them in and stuff and that leadership, because that was something that was always brought up, last year. What's the leadership in the locker room and everything? So bringing those guys in to kind of be that leader and stuff like that, and then also coach while they're out there playing and everything is going to help out a lot too. So,
yep, agreed.
Yeah, and we did an all IDP, so individual defensive players only mock draft a couple weeks ago, and I was behind the scenes because I don't know much about defense. I really don't know much about rookie breakdowns, but I had to fill in for somebody on their last pick because their internet had dropped. And I got to tell you, I think you guys got a player in the draft that has the best name in the league as far as rookie goes. So I went in and I drafted Divine Diablo for her because of her drop, because that is an incredible name. So I'll be rooting for that guy as well. All right. So now you guys see why I like to bring on you experts to come in and talk football, because obviously the listeners don't get any actual good NFL quality from me. But one last thing before I let you guys go, I need to know, how are you going to feel? Like what's going to make you feel good about the season, and what's going to make you feel bad about the season, depending on how it goes by the end of the season. So it comes time for, the season's over, they're packing away their pads. Either you're really happy and this is why, or you're really upset and this is why. I've been finishing every show, every one of these special episodes like this, and usually I get a deer in the headlight look for about 10 seconds, and then somebody jumps in and they start answering because they have to think about that one for a minute. So I feel like I've rambled on a little bit here just to give you guys a little bit of time. So who's ready to go first?
I'll go. I'll roll. I mean, I think it's really easy, man. I think for Raider Nation, I kind of said it at the beginning of the show. For Raider Nation, man, it's playoffs or bust. I mean, it really is. The team should have made the playoffs in 2020, in my opinion. And I don't want to hear about COVID. I don't want to hear about this, that, and the other. Every team had to deal with it. Some teams dealt with it better than others, and some teams didn't. It's been far too long, man. You're going to year 4 with John Gruden, and I get it. He had a game plan. He broke everything down. Then he tried to start reconstructing everything. The first year in Vegas ideally would have been the year they made it to the playoffs. That's that, and especially with the expanded wild card, I thought it should have happened. They were 6-3 at one point, and down the stretch they bottomed out. It's like they're winning the race, and all of a sudden they blow a tire, and every car just flies right past them. You can't do that. They've got to figure out a way to finish this thing off and finish it off strong. They've got 17 games this year. Schedule's not easy, but whatever. It's the schedule. Good teams don't complain about the schedule. They just go and handle it. And I'm not saying the Raiders are complaining about it. I know a lot of Raider fans are upset about the schedule, but whatever. It is what it is, man. Just go out there and do what you do. Take it one game at a time and ball out. There's a couple little stretches in the schedule where I think that they can go on a nice 2-3 game, winning streak, a little run. I think that kind of helps them. They don't play the Chiefs coming out of the Chiefs bye week this year. That's great. It's the first time in forever that's happened. So that's always positive. The Chiefs never lose coming out of their bye. So that's positive. I think it's got to be, man. I mean, if you go 10-7, 11-6, and you miss the playoffs, it's going to be very disappointing. But if you go 10-7 and 11-6 and you miss the playoffs, at least you went 10-7 or 11-6. You know what I mean? Like, at least you show them that, this is a damn good team. This team is going to be, a problem for other teams. But I mean, if you go, 9-8, 8-9, 6-11, something like that, it's just like, what's the plan? What's going on? So as far as I'm concerned, the easiest, quickest answer, I guess, would be playoffs or bust for me.
Right on. Who's next?
I'll jump in. I mean, honestly, like the playoffs or bust thing, it makes sense. I'll be content with playoffs, right? But I won't say I'm going to be happy.
Right.
Like, I need a Super Bowl. I need a Super Bowl win or nothing. That's it. Like, that's, as a fan, that's what I really care about, right? So nothing, anything less than a Super Bowl will make me disappointed. It will make me sad. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to be a realistic fan and you're like, all right, listen, we're trying to build something, we're not quite there yet. We got this really strong condition, conference and division that we're in. And I understand, like, the playoffs will make us feel better from a, like, that we're growing, because right now, since they added Gruden, since Mayock's there, everyone is, getting wishy-washy with Derek Carr. Like, we need a playoff run, like, regardless, or people are really going to be wanting this thing blown up. But they're going to lose all faith in John Gruden.
Again.
Yeah, they're going to lose faith in John Gruden. They're going to lose faith in Mayock, and they're going to call for their heads. It just is what it is, right? So playoffs is the only thing to, like, make this team feel, that they're moving forward, and that fans will be somewhat satisfied, right? So we'll be satisfied with a, playoff run. And of course, I will not ask for nothing or want nothing less than Super Bowl, because, why do anything if you're not the best? So that's where I feel it. That's where I'm at with it.
All right. Well, Rich, they prepped you.
No pressure.
Every year, I always say we're Super Bowl bound, baby. That's what I say every year. So I'm going to, they already said what is expected. But I think for me, the biggest disappointment for this year would be if Carr doesn't make it through the season because of offensive line. So that's the biggest disappointment would be horrified about and stuff like that, because I do expect our Raiders to make the Super Bowl this year and win. So just going to leave it like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Before we end, like, if I could just say, like, it depends on like the circles that you're in. If you're looking at like just NFL Twitter, fan Twitter, obviously, you know, the Raiders are a joke in some sense or another for people. They love to bash on them. In fantasy circles, is going to be, you know, if the O-line doesn't hold up, if Kenyon Drake sucks, why they add him and pay all that money, you know, why didn't they trade for Julio or something like that? You know, you're going to hear all these different things. And so, you know, depending on what circle you're in and where you're getting your information and you're conversing with the most is where you're going to hear the most, you know, problems. But I do just want to circle back to the O-line thing really quick before you go, because there's a guy on Twitter named Tristan Kuhn. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with him or not. He works at a couple of different places, but if you just go at Kuhn, Kuhn, Tristan, Tristn, I'm not going to read the whole thread, but when everybody was concerned about the O-line issues, this was just the first tweet that he made in the thread. He said, for everyone wondering about the Raiders and why they're dismantling the OL, here's the thread why. Number 1 paid unit in the NFL, 10th ranked pass block win rate, and 27th ranked run block win rate. Not one player on their O-line ranked in the top 10 at their position in either win rate. So this is why you blow these things up, and this is why you trust the guys behind them, and you trust your coaching and your system, and you go add other players. That's the point. You cannot put that kind of money in an O-line and take that as a result. So if you're concerned about it, I don't think you should get crazy about it. You know, this is what they were doing. They believe in what they, you know, retooled it with. And so, you know, I won't get crazy about it. But if, like Rich said, if the O-line sucks and it gets Derek Carr hurt or something, it's going to look bad. From a fan perspective, we're going to get, you know, killed on Twitter and everywhere else, and it's understandable. You know, that's going to come with it. So hopefully that's not the case.
Well, this is the fifth show, the fifth special episode I've done so far this offseason. I've done the Bengals, the Broncos, the Falcons, and even the Patriots. And the Patriots obviously have a very large winning tradition, you know. So, and I got to tell you, this is the first episode where I've had guys tell me, "Are you freaking kidding? It's the Super Bowl. That's our line. That's what it takes."
That's it, man.
So, I like it. I love the passion.
It's a commitment to excellence, baby. Just win. That's it.
That's just win, baby. Right?
It ain't just a headline. It's what we want. It's what we expect.
So I appreciate that passion, and I knew I would get that with you guys. So again, I wanted to thank you guys for coming back on real quick. On our way out the door here, don't forget to check out your boy Q. Like it says down there at the bottom, 1330 AM, 93.9 FM, host of Locked On Raiders podcast, which is how I came about finding him. And like I said, I highly suggest you all listen to that as well. And then Locked On Bets podcast. I'm sure I'll figure out a way for him to help me lose more money down the road. So I guess that's what that podcast sounds like. So
that's what it does.
So Q, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate you, and we'll stay in touch, especially if anything big pops up with the Raiders this season.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it, man. You guys, it's fun being on with you guys too. Thanks a lot.
Same man.
Likewise.
And then we got Neal here. We got to say bye to Neal. You know, it's always sad to say goodbye, but at least we know there'll always be a next time, right?
I hope so. Listen, you say goodbye, it could be permanent sometimes. So
hopefully
just see you later, man. See you
there
later.
There will definitely always be a next time. I don't think I've gotten an invite on your show yet, but you'll still get invites to mine.
Listen, don't do that to me on the air here. Don't worry, we'll fix that.
No, you got to remember though, if you invite me, I'm the one on our show that doesn't provide any real analyst. I like to cut up and have fun. So you got to bring me on a show that's not actually serious.
There's a place for that all the time, man.
That's Clock Dodgers podcast, guys. I talk about it on the show all the time, and those of you that didn't see the last episode with him, at least now you get to see his face. And of course, Rich Gonzalez, my boy Rich, buddy. I can't wait to get that package in the mail. Rich has sent out T-shirts and hats of toilets and titles for all of us that are incorporated with the show. And we didn't even ask him to do it. That's the kind of hustle he brings. So you have no idea, Rich, how much we appreciate the contributions that you've made to the team since you came on. So I had already invited you to come on this episode before you even joined the team. So that's how serious I know you take your Raiders. So
to be honest with you, hey, I got you this gear because I just want to make sure you guys are all wearing that silver and black.
Yeah. If you look at our logo up there at the top, he's not lying. That's our logo is black and white with a little gold on the end. So I can see. Did you put some silver tones in there?
Nah, I didn't. But hey, you look at that, all you see is Raiders. That's all I see.
Yeah.
Now you guys are all going to be subconsciously promoting it.
There's a reason why all my banners are in blue and white as a Colts fan.
Listen, the Raiders have a bad season. Next time I come on, you're going to see the background like this. It won't be a positive experience. So
well, hopefully if they're losing in the playoffs, it's to the Colts in the AFC Championship game.
oh man.
All right. Hey, you all have a good night. Again, thank you very much for coming on. And then to all the listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. And I'm going to get this all dropped just as soon as I can everywhere.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, peace.